Hello, everybody. It's Andy Smith here, your cartoonist with 34 years of experience in the comic book industry. And I also wrote the book, Drawing Dynamic Comics, that came out back in the year 2000. So, anyhow, for this video, I thought I would do a little bit on drawing the head, but then keeping the features the same at uh, different angles and such when drawing the head. So, most books, and mine included, start off with the old egg shape. And this is, works great for the front view. Let's just move this over here, a little more centered. And then you cut it in half down the middle vertically, and then half horizontal as well. And then this half is the eye line, so the eyes will fall on this line like that. The head is roughly 5 eyes wide. So this is the eye measurement here. So it's 5 wide. So come out to about here with it. The distance between the eyes is generally 1 eye width as well. And these measurements, once again, these are just for your standard, like, that's a good looking guy or a good looking girl head. You can change these for different characters and stuff. If you cut the distance from the eye line to the chin in half, that's the nose line. The nose is usually the same width as 1 eye, so you can drop the line down. And then if you cut the distance from the nose to the chin in thirds, the top third is the mouth. The nose, if you draw that across, is the bottom of the ear. And then the top of the ear is the brow. The brow just sits up a little bit higher. That's one of those things where, once again, yeah, you can break it down to an exact measurement, but take a look in the mirror, look at different people. Everybody's brows are higher or lower. Men's brows are usually lower. Women's arch higher and such, but they all start at the same point right here at the bridge of the nose. So a woman's will curve up and a guy's might just go flat across. Curve up, flat across. Anyhow, draw it straight across. That's the top of the ear. Bottom of the ear. Top of ear. You do the mouth across. And that's where the jawline cuts into the chin. Cheekbones. Once again, it just kind of depends on the character. You can have high cheekbones up here, lower cheekbones. Really depends on the character. But I mean, that's basically the foundation right there of your typical head. And you drop the nose in, just get a little detail. And there you go. The hairline, which you're going, what do you know about a hairline, Smith? Look at you. You don't even have hair. Are you sure you can even talk on this? Maybe you should have a guest on the show to talk about the hairline. I get it. I've heard it all. But the hairline, if you take the eye line up to the top of the head, and I think it's been a while, say divide it into thirds. The hairline is the top third. But once again, you can have receding hair, which is up here. You have real low hair. That so varies. It just depends on the character you're drawing. That's all. So the biggest one is the eyes, nose, and mouth. So there's that. Now, let's say you're creating a character whose head might have a different shape to it. So I'm going to do a new layer here, turn this one off. We've got a head shape that's more blocky, like this. And this is where the cartooning comes into it, right? And I'm not saying cartooning like you see in comic strips. You know, I call my stuff semi-realistic or stylized realism. So what if you have a guy who has a squat head like this? Let's say his eye line is lower than halfway, and then his nose is a little stubbier, so that's not halfway, and then his mouth, you know, might be on the thirds, right? And he could have really small, beady little eyes like this. Okay. And this is what I do when I'm creating a character for like a character sheet. So he might have these beady eyes, and he might have a wide nose that is the distance, you know, if you drop the eyes down, which that is way more than just one eye width between. So the nostrils still come down. So he's got a wide nose. Most noses are narrower, thinner. Thinner is what I was trying to say at the top, the bridge, brow. You know, you get the mouth. Most mouths, I should have said this on another one. If you take the center of the eye and drop it down, a line down, that's usually where the corners of the mouth fall. So let's say this guy has some thin lips. Well, maybe a thin upper lip, but then he's got a thicker lower lip, and he's got like no chin whatsoever, right? His ears still aligned with the bottom of the nose and the brow, like that. His jawline cuts in, still aligning with where the mouth is. Cheekbones come down like that. And then literally, he's just got this big, more bulbous type head. But because his head is so squat, he might look weird with a higher hairline if the character has hair. So maybe he has a real low forehead too, you know, and he just has like, I don't know, curly type hair, like whatever. You'll see where I'm going with this soon. Right? So you got this. Well, generally, when I create a new character, I want to do a side view as well, right? Let me just clean this up some. Okay. So generally, I'll do this side view as well. And one of the ways to do it is take your ruler. Now I could probably eyeball it, but it's a teaching video, so I'm not eyeballing it. You just draw straight lines across. Actually, to make it easier, I'm going to do a perspective ruler like that. You just draw straight lines across. So, and you're doing this so you can line up the key features of the character. Oops. Let's see. And you can even see like this eye's a little lower than that as I was sketching it in, but that's okay. So I'm basically doing the key elements of uh, the character here. And then, so once I have those sketched in, I did do it on a different layer so I can lighten it. You can still see them though. Take my pencil and it's like, okay. Oop. And of course, I always do stuff on the wrong layer. So this is his hairline. Oh, I want to make this a little thicker. There we go. That's his hairline, comes down. Brow line is right here. His nose comes down to here, the tip of his nose. Wait, did I get that right? Oh no, that's the top of his eye. Whoops. This comes down a little lower. Tip of his nose is here. The line, and then this is one of the things. It's a side view. So you could say his nose sticks out that far, or it could only stick out this far. That is totally up to you. But because he has such a squat face, I'm going to have his nose not really stick off his face that far. And then, I did a line for the top lip, and I did a line for the center of his lips where they connect. I did a line for the lower lip. And then the lower lip, it cuts back, and then the chin comes out and goes around. There's the chin. Like that. Sketching in his whole head. Actually, that's the top of his hair. I didn't do a line going across for the top of his skull, but it's about right there. So you're sketching in the whole head, which is basically built on a sphere like that, and you cut the sphere in half. And that is where the ear is going to fall. So the ear, brow line right here, comes around and connects down to the nose. And then the jaw comes down to this line right here on his mouth. Make sure I got the nose right, or the bottom of the ear right. I did. And you see the bottom of his nostrils higher right here. The top of his nostril goes there. The mouth is here. And it pretty much runs right along with the mouth line. And then his lower lip curves up. And his upper lip curves down to the side. Like that. And actually, that comes down a little bit more. The chin. And then his eye, the bottom of his eye, I'm going to use this one, is on this line. And now, how far back do you set the eye from the face? Once again, it depends on the character. Some characters' profile might be like this, and their eye might be right here on a side view because their brow really doesn't come in that far. It's almost smooth. Nose comes in, mouth, chin. And in some characters, their eye is set farther back. So it really depends, On this guy, I'm going to do, and this is kind of a rule of thumb you can go by. You take the angle of the nose, and you do that same angle, backing up, and, from from where the nose touches the front of the face, and then that's where the eye would be. So let's see, bottom of the eyes here, top of the eyes up here, corners here, side view, brow. I've got here up to here. And then the hairline, because he has he has a real small forehead, but the hair swoops back up to here because you can see the height right there. I didn't do that. Let me do that line real quick. This line right here, I did it on the wrong layer, but I don't care. That's where the hair swoops back up to. So it swoops back up to there. And then I should have done this line too, where it cuts back in, but it's right about there. And it comes down. And that's hard to see on the front view because how the face turns around to the back. And then the hair, once it hits that point right here, it can just slope back down. With a thick, fat head like that, this dude probably has a wide neck. So drop his neck off of the back of his head here. And then the hair just swoops back. Like that. And then I got his cheekbone coming down to the nose line. So it will come down like this. And that's one way when you're doing your character sheet, model sheet, to get the proportions correct from the front to the side. Like that. Then you can see, yeah, I mean, you look at his head and you're like, ooh, that guy's kind of goofy looking. And it's like, yeah. And that's what happens. You mess with the standard proportions and it's going to totally mess with, you know, the character's head and how he looks. So let's see. Same thing if I want to do we'll just turn that off. Got to turn those off. You know, if you want to do a guy's head who is more thin and tall, I always start with the front view. And if the guy's head is thin and tall like this, his features are going to be that way too. So I might bring his eyes up higher than halfway. His nose, still about the halfway point. And then his mouth, I might even drop down a little more than, remember before, it was taking the distance from the nose to the chin and dividing it into thirds. I might bring his mouth down even more to elongate everything in his head. Which means his nose will be longer. Now, if his eye line being here, I might just do it where the top of his eyes are. Hitting that line. And his eyes are basically about one eye width apart. Remember, they're not hard, fast rules. They're guides to guide you. But they do really help out for drawing, you know, the really pretty, handsome person using the standard guidelines. His lips, I give him a thinner lower lip since everything on this guy's kind of thin. And in the distance from your lower lip, if you feel on your face, your lower lip from there cuts down and in, and then your chin pops out some. And his chin is going to be narrow as well to carry it through. Brow, so then you come across, and this guy's going to have pretty big ears. Right? And then the head goes up and around. Cheekbones come down. A lot of times you can swoop the cheekbone down and in to where the nose is. The outside of his jaw comes down. You see where the mouth is. So you can still use that as the guide, taking the mouth across. Sketching in the ears. And you've got this type of head, and maybe this dude only has, maybe he has male pattern baldness, but he likes to grow it out, and it's curly on the sides. Ooh, look at that curly hair on the sides. Hey, wait a second. This guy could be me. What am I doing? Well, they say you always draw a little bit of yourself in everything. Then he's got a little thin neck, pronounced Adam's apple, because everything's so thin on this guy. Sternomastoids cut in. But then, let me get to the old, maybe he's got, you can see a little bit of the, not technically bags under the eyes, but just a little bit of underneath the eye there. And then, like I say, you can do the same thing. You take your ruler. Let's do this better. So we've got top of the head where the hair goes. The hair, but then the hair's lower as it comes towards us. The highest part of his brow, eyebrow, the lower part of the brow. Oh, stupid perspective thing. Lower part of the brow. Once again, look at that. When I draw, everything's kind of canted a little bit to the left, but that's okay. I'll use this inner eye. So you've got the top of his eye, bottom of his eye, the bottom of the eye bag. He's tired. Bottom of his nose. Oh, went off at the angle. I didn't draw the top of his nostril, but it's about right there. Oop, that didn't do it right. Oh, stupid perspective thing. Oh well. Top of his upper lip, where the mouth meets when it's closed. Lower lip. Oh, going off in perspective again. Stop it. Where his chin's going to stick out Oops, that didn't do it right either. And then the bottom of his chin. And I'm sure I forgot some. I mean, bottom of his nose, ears. Yeah, I mean, I can work it from there. Get in, sketch in. There. And then the top of the ear is right here, and it connects here. And he's got long ears. To fit with the character that we created. I don't know what this is called, but it's that little bump everybody has on their ear. The earlobe is down here. The inner part of the ear is a curved Y shape. It kind of, I guess I have a pet peeve when I see artists that screw up the inner part of the ear because it's just this curved Y shape inside the ear. And it casts a shadow down depending on the light source. And then there's the ear canal, which is dark. And then that little part's dark. And you can mess with this Y shape as much as you want. But basically, if you look at anybody's ear, it's pretty much this curved Y shape that makes up that inner cartilage of the ear. So anyhow, then the jaw comes down to like that, and it swoops over to the chin. Got his brow right here. Where is it? Right there. Comes out to right there. Maybe his brow doesn't stick off that far. Actually, make it different. Maybe this guy's brow from the side sticks out really far. Who knows? Right? And it comes back around to his forehead and then up around to the top of his head. And that's the bottom of his nose here. But let's do the angle of his nose. Let's say this guy's nose just drops, barely angles out of his face, right? And everybody's nose angles out some. And this guy's doesn't really angle. Maybe it pops back in at the bottom like that. And it connects here, curves up. The nostrils on the same line, as you can see, compared to the other guy I did. And I said the top of the nostril, because I eyeballed it, is on this line. And then you can see I didn't do a line across here, where on the front view, the nose goes up like that, back down to the nostril. And you can see on the front view a lot of this guy's nostril. So then on the side view, I should have drawn this line across, but it's about up to here. And it angles down. Cuts down, back up. So then on the front view, that's why you can see so much of this guy's nostril. And this is the upper part of his mouth, which everybody's mouth, the mouth is built on this thing called a mouth barrel. And it's called that because the front on a side view of somebody's mouth curves outward like that. And it's a mouth barrel if you were to draw through to give that three-dimensional shape. Now, once again, you can make this mouth barrel pop out as much as you want. This guy's thinner and has a long face, so it's not going to be flat, but you could say it's almost flat down to his chin. And then using the demarcations here of his mouth, this is the center line of his mouth right here. Upper lip sticks out maybe just a little bit, cuts back in. And then the upper lip comes down to the side. His lower lip, generally, on most people, the lips don't line up on a straight line like this. That really looks like somebody's doing a little kissy thing. Smoochies. On most people, the lips always angle back some. So the nose comes down, upper lip comes out, cuts back. Lower lip touches the line, cuts back in, cuts in below the lower lip, and then back out for the chin. You can exaggerate that, really as much as you want. But on this guy, because he's thinner, angles back. It's not going to be that exaggerated. Thin lower lip that cuts up. And then I did this line so I know where the ball of his chin sticks out. So this cuts back in, and his chin's going to really be round like that. And you can see his cheekbone swoops down from his ear, lining up with the bottom of his nose, swoops down. And then we've got, do this parallel line again of the sweep of his nose so you know where the eye is. And eyes, another pet peeve of mine is when I see people draw a side view of eyes where it's like that, straight up and down. That's a no-no. Eyes angle as well. A little bit forward. And yeah, the eye's built on a ball, obviously the eyeball, but you can see for the eye to be curved like this, it's right at the center basically of the ball. And that's not how it is. So you always want to have that little bit of an angle. So anyhow, a little bit of an angle here. Let's see, this is his upper lid. Is that right? Yep. Back, his lower lid is right here. And then this is the little baggy under the eye. Comes back around like that. Whoop. And then this line right here is his eyebrow. And we did this line to where the top of his eyebrow is. And then it comes back down. Like that. Oh yes, this the hair. So it's higher here, lower here. So lower here, the hair goes up. And because he has marrow pattern baldness, goes down in the back. Get some of his skull in there. And it's curly. He's got a thin neck. Adam's apple is right about here. It's a sternomastoid muscle. And this dude probably has a thin neck. And then the hair usually goes down to where the base of the skull is in the back. So, oops. So you've got that. And this all applies to women as well. And I don't know, let me know if you want a different video on the ladies. You can only see a little bit of the upper lid on this guy. So, because the skin is overlapping, let me do that clearer. You see a little bit of the upper lid. Like that. Maybe he has a mustache, a thin mustache. Same thing. I'm just eyeballing it, but you get the gist. Ooh, a little thin mustache right there. So neck muscles, neck muscles. So play around with head shapes. That's one thing I like to do, is play around with different head shapes and stuff. And then if you're going to do this guy at a different angle, you know, when I draw heads at different angles, when I do when I draw a straight on view of a head, I'll start off with just whatever the head shape is. So if I did this little design sheet for myself, and it would be cleaner than this, I would tighten up the pencils more. But for this exercise, doesn't really need to be. I would, you know, if I was drawing a straight on view of this guy, I would just look at this and start, you know, in the panel I'm drawing with, you know, that basic shape because it's straight on. But if you're drawing like an upshot, then I would start with the circle. I'd find the center line. And remember, if you look at the side view of a face, it curves overall. So that's why this curves. And then once I establish that, and I establish the eye line on the guy wrapping around the ball, because remember, you're drawing three-dimensionally. I know the distance from his eye line down to his chin is more than just the half, and he's got a narrow face. So I start sketching in. And you can see at this angle, I'm keeping that dude's head shape. And then because I did this side view, I can see, well, before I get to the nose, I was going to jump ahead. This is one of those things. I don't have to talk out loud when I draw my comic book pages. So, so once you've got the center line of his face vertically and his eye line basically lined up, you can see his nose is longer. And I just kind of eyeball it and go, wow, okay, that's a longer nose. His mouth isn't on the, I wouldn't break this line from his nose to his chin up into thirds. His mouth is a little long, farther down as well, the center of his mouth. I can do that. Excuse me. And then looking at this side view, his nose turns up a little bit as it comes out from his face. Doesn't stick out that far. Goes back into his brow. By looking at the front view, I can see how wide his nose is, which is basically the same distance that are between his eyes. So I can pop in the basic shape triangle type for the bottom of his nose. His nose isn't really that bulbous. And what I mean is this dude's nose is kind of like this at the base, thinner at the brow, not too wide at the base, compared to some guys whose noses are really broad and wide. This guy's isn't. So I can sketch back up into there. You can see his brow right here really sticks out. So I kind of even project that out when I'm drawing, and then I can wrap the brow around his head properly. And then since the corner of his eye does line up with his nose, I can take the nose and do a parallel line to the center line of the face and go, oh, that's the inside of his eye. You can do it on the other side too if you need to. Like that. Remember, this eye line touches the top of his eyelid. So, top of his eyelid. And it comes back down. And the cheekbone swoops into the base of his nose. So it comes down and then, boom, swoops in. His mouth is very thin. And if I draw a line straight up, it's almost the center of his eye, but it's not quite. Oops. Thin lips. And he's got that chin that really pops out. And sometimes I will draw the center line. Like the profile here, this is basically the center outline of the profile. So sometimes I'll draw the center line just to make sure the contour is correct when I'm drawing it. Brow come around, nose come around for his ear. His jaw comes down. And then he does have, of course, back of his head. So you see his brow pops from the side and cuts back in. You see it pops here, cuts back in. And then his forehead goes around. That's behind his ear. And then with the hair and stuff, you can see too, well, the hair's up. The hair's way up there. So it's going to overlap the side of his head. So because you're shooting up this way looking at it, so you're going to see this edge of his hair, not the top of his head, as it overlaps. Hey, look at my neck. Look at the big Adam's apple. And then once you've got this little on the base of his nose, roll this up some. Now, let me try and clean this up a little bit on a new layer. See how it looks. Make the pencil a little smaller. That might be too small. So when I trace things off, now, if I'm using a light box, this is kind of like on a light box because below the original drawing is real faint. Or I'll hit it with a kneaded eraser and wipe it away gently so the drawing's really faint. So when I go back over it with my HB pencil, you can see the pencil lead is darker over what was wiped away. And I usually always get the outline in as best as I can first. Curly hair. Cheek. and down. His chin pops like we saw in that side view. So it overlaps. The chin, as it cuts in, overlaps this outside of his face here. It's got a round chin, so it comes around, goes back up. Cut in the ear, the Y shape for the ear. Why, oh, why is it a Y shape? Got me, but it's a great way to do it. And then, his eyebrows. Let's pinch him down like he's furrowing his brow. Because this area in here where the brow is can move up and down depending on the expression, obviously. So you could have this eyebrow down, which pinches this muscle down, then this eyebrow could actually be up, like he's has a quizzical look on his face, like, what? It's like, what is that? What am I looking at? And you remember what you did for the side of the nose. You can see here the side of his nose is a nice sweep. So it's not going to change. His nose all of a sudden from the side, from this angle, isn't going to come down and then bulb out like this, bulbous, because that means on this side it would come down and bulb out like that. And it doesn't. So that is one of the reasons behind doing a character sheet. So you can keep your characters always looking the same. And you saw this, I'll do it real light over top on this new layer where I outline basically the bottom triangle type shape of his nose. Well, the nostrils have to fit in that. They can't go outside of it. Like that. This is the philtrum. I don't know if you knew that. I learned this in school. That little dent right under your nose is called the philtrum. And his lips. You're thin. Remember, the mouth is on that mouth. What? Mouth barrel. Because it's a mouth barrel like this that curves like this and like this. So if you're looking up at the mouth, if it's really tilted back, the lips would follow the curve like that and wrap around it. If you're looking down on the mouth, same thing. The lips follow the curve and wrap around it. So we're looking up, so it curves around that way since we're looking up at it. And he's got that thinner lip, lower lip. Remember, this cuts in, and depending on your drawing style, how you want to indicate that, either with lighting or line. And then the nostril wraps up and back around like that. You can't see it on that side because of the foreshortening. And then his eyes. It's like, what's up there? It's a bird. It's a plane. He's looking up. He's like, I don't understand. What is up there? His other eye, the inside corner of his eye, is going to be hidden behind the nose bridge some. See a little bit of his upper eyelid. It's like, what is going on up there? Something like that. And his cheekbone comes in. Whoop. You can define that as much as you want. Sternomastoid. What is going on? Like that. Boom. Comes from behind. Neck. Yeah, I probably felt the back of his head a little bit more. Didn't look right. No, I don't know if I like that. Kind of like that. This is where the cartooning comes in. Doesn't have to be photorealistic correct. And you kind of see, oh, that's the same dude that was drawn here. It's just now his head's tilted back some. And then you can figure out how you want to do lighting and stuff. I wasn't fond of that nostril. That's a little better. But point is, so that was unnecessary. Anyhow, so that kind of gives you the basic idea for this dude. This guy's head. So I'm actually just looking at my screen to see how I like it. Yeah, it's okay. You can have real thin eyebrows, or you can have really thick, bushy eyebrows to where it's like, he's like, I can't grow hair on my head, but my eyebrows are so thick. What up? That's not fair. You know, it all depends. And his mouth could be open, whatever, but I was just trying to stick to what I did there. So, yeah, there you go. That's one way to keep your heads looking the same from different angles. And it all starts with a good front and side view. And then if you can, do a 3/4 view as well, which you can kind of use the side view to extrapolate from. You can still do the 3/4 view. You keep these lines, the horizontal lines going across, so everything still lines up properly in a 3/4 view as well. So just depends. And then we've got, let's see, this dude who's got a really funky looking shaped head. Feel bad for this guy. And just to talk about the mouth barrel again real quick. Let's erase his mouth here. Let me get you can see the lines. What if, and same thing with the nose. So the thing is, this is what I want to say too. You can't tell from the front really without lighting the angle of his nose and stuff. Well, let's say this guy's nose, right? We've got the guidelines. Let's say his nose really angles out like this. Once again, where the cartooning comes in. And then it goes back. His nostril is up here. The top of his nostrils here. So his nose could be like that, right? And then let's say his mouth barrel is like really out there as well, like this, right? And then you go, okay, well, this is the center of his mouth right here on this line. And you can see the corner of his mouth isn't much below it. So it goes, it's hard to see on that rough, but it goes up some and then down. So it will go up and then down. And then that's the top of his upper lip, this line. So what if his mouth barrel really sticks out like that? And then let's say, I know I said the lower lip is always behind the upper lip on an angle like that. But what if this guy's is the opposite? What if the angle is like that, angling out, and his upper lip wraps around and then comes down? Because you gotta keep it in line with everything you did over here. Back up to the corner of his mouth. And you could keep his chin way back here, and this just really cuts back like that. It's hilarious. But more likely than not, it'll still cut back some, but maybe not that much. And then his chin is like that. And, this is the fun of it, is creating all these characters or different characters by playing with how the features stick off the face. I mean, he could have a big brow too. We just can't tell from the front view with no lighting. But what if his brow is like that? Sticks off that much, and then his eyebrow comes down. So that's the fun part. You just have to keep all this stuff consistent when you draw different angles of the characters. And part of helping with the consistency is having a front and side view like that set up. I mean, that is one goofy looking dude right there. And you're not going to draw Superman with a profile like this, or Batman, or anybody. That would be just stupid. And look ridiculous. But if you're drawing a villain or just some type of secondary character, go ahead. What if this dude wears some type of goggles, right? The angle like that, his nose comes down, his mouth, all the same. And then coming off the goggles, his mask line angles back. Maybe there's another one for a break in color. And then his ear maybe has not totally round, but kind of an oval covering. You know, could be made out of metal, whatever. And maybe it cuts in a little bit like that. And who knows, could have some design thing on it like this and whatever. And then, you know, what if he doesn't have hair? He's a bald dude. Well, we know where the top of his head is. What we kind of do. It's right about here. Still has a big, thick neck. Whoa. Big, thick sternomastoid muscle. Big, thick, whatever that muscle is coming off the base of the skull. You know, with reflection, you can indicate where his eye is. And then you've got this dude. This almost reminds me of a Flash villain. I can't remember the Flash villain's name now. He's kind of a big, goofy guy. You know, and then he could have, just erase that, it's driving me nuts. Nostril. He could have, you know, some costume line like this on his head as well. And the thing is, as long as you draw this guy and he looks the same from every angle, then it becomes believable. It's when he looks different, obviously from different angles, but the only thing that's the same are the costume details. Well, then people are just going to be like, well, wait a second. That's a totally different character. Who's that guy now? I don't recognize that dude. What's going on? So there you go. Another pseudo quick tutorial for you guys on playing around with different heads and stuff. Hope you enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys with another one soon. Bye-bye, everybody.